Hello and welcome to the Buckets and Tea NBA show. I'm your host, Catherine Eicher. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode. Today, joining me, you know him, you love him. It's S. Baron Henny. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I'm vibing. I'm all right. I'm hanging in there. I'm doing a bunch of different things. I'm good, Catherine. Thank you for having me on the podcast. Appreciate you. Appreciate the Buckets and Tea community, by the way. Shout out to y'all. Yes.
Yes, thank you. You've got the green screen up.
Yes.
Mr. Sun Life himself.
It's funny. My agent gave me a lot of shit the other day, or like a couple of weeks ago, because I used the green screen for an audition. She's like, "Don't use the green screen for auditions. It's unprofessional." Yada yada yada. I'm like,
really?
Okay,
I thought it was more professional.
I have like a backdrop, like a photo backdrop that I attach to this green screen. Like I can like Velcro it onto it. And she's like, please continue to use that. Don't use the green screen because the green screen is unprofessional. And
whoa,
like, okay. Sounds good, Mrs. Agent. Sounds good.
What's your photo backdrop?
It's like, those graduating class type.
Yeah, that's what I was picturing.
It's it's right here in the corner. I wish I could turn around the computer and show it to you. It's exactly that. Like here, actually, let me see if I can find
like in the 90s when they had like random lasers in the background, kind of like that's what I like. Glamour shots.
Let me see if you can show it. This is me auditioning for a mayonnaise commercial right here.
I love how fast you had that.
Yeah, there you go. You see
had that really ready to go.
You see the backdrop? Yeah, there you go.
The apron. Yeah. That's so funny.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
All right. Anyways, yeah. It is like a graduation situation.
It definitely is a graduation situation. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're all happy for you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah. We need to see more of you out on these streets, on these billboards.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. I'm not gonna lie. That was pretty nuts to see that. That was cool. Hopefully it'll be for something cooler than a Sun Life basketball commercial one day. But yes.
No, come on. Listen, we all know like look, I don't really belong in the corporate world, but we all know that's where the money is. You know what I mean?
Yo, you know what? It's funny you said that. I've had a lot of conversation. So the reason I've shaved, as you may see the community at home.
Oh, I've noticed.
As well. Yes. that is also brought about some of the insecurities I was talking about pre-recording, by the way. And so now that I am jawlineless, I went on a shoot for something where I had to be shaved. And so I was talking to this guy and I'm like, man, like I like doing the commercials. The commercials are fun, yada, yada, yada. But I really want to like get into like acting. I want to get into film and TV. And he's like, what the hell do you want to do that for? Continue doing the commercials because it's the best way to make money. And I'm like, man, I don't agree, but you are right.
Well, it's certainly not the best way to make money. Being an actor is a hard life.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But it is how many actors sustain themselves in between projects that they're actually passionate about. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that is definitely true. That is a hard life that I have learned about very quickly.
Listen, I've learned about the hard life. The screenwriting world is just in peril.
Yeah, I know.
Like literally the Hollywood Reporter released an article this week that was like, it's bleak out there. And I'm like, wow.
Thank you, Hollywood Reporter.
I went to this networking event like about a month ago, and the panel, not even like people networking, the actual panel itself was like, no one's working right now. And I'm like, well, if you're not working, you're the panel.
Right. Yeah. What are we doing? If you're the panel,
like what is this?
Why are we at this networking event? Yeah. It's funny. It's like every industry I'm even remotely passionate or interested about and want to pursue is like the worst paying and the worst, like the worst industry possible. Sports media. Hey, what up, Mr. Layoff? How you doing? Acting in commercials. It's like, man, you gotta piecemeal your stuff together. Screenwriting. It's like, good luck. It's like anything I even remotely am interested in. They're like, buddy, we're going to give you pennies to do this and you're
Yeah,
going to
I
be happy
know.
with it. It's funny.
I'm literally like, should I just become a lawyer and like write books on the side just so I'm still a
Yeah.
writer, honestly.
Yeah,
I do
I
think
know.
that sometimes. I don't think it'll happen, but I
Mm.
do think that sometimes, you know.
Would you is like law even something you're interested in? Like
Not
is
even a little bit.
okay.
No, I have a friend who's a lawyer and she does so well that it's like, I
Right.
wish I just didn't have.
Naturally. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wish I followed you through life and didn't have my own instincts.
I went to law school for 2 years, so, like,
Did you?
that is constantly something that is in the back of my mind. It's like, "Oh,
Wow.
should I have finished this thing and gone somewhere else and done something else?" But then would I have been happy doing that, Mrs. Therapist Catherine? Tell me, please.
No,
Yeah,
you wouldn't have been happy.
yeah, I don't
And
know.
the therapists don't care about how much money you make as long as you can still pay them, so
Yeah, that is definitely true. You're definitely true. Yeah, yeah.
speaking of which, I mean, maybe we should call this podcast Raptors Therapy because obviously we are going off here because our team just sucks right now. And we're gonna get into that, but maybe we should segue into some NBA stuff. And I'm sure our life and our perils will come up
Sure.
throughout the hour.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
As they do. Speaking of teams in peril, I want to talk about the Milwaukee Bucks.
Okay.
What is going on with the Bucks? So they have lost this past week to the Grizzlies and the Wizards. Teams they absolutely should beat.
Right.
No Damian Lillard, but still.
Mhm.
They have Giannis. Um, so yeah, Doc Rivers was asked about it, and I believe I have a quote here. He said, "You know, it's funny. I've actually been sitting back and watching everything, not just our players, but our travel crew, everything, and I've made a lot of notes. I will say that. I won't share that, but we don't bring the necessary professionalism, seriousness on the road, and that's something we can fix. And that's something we're going to have to fix." As this is the second time
Yeah.
the team crew has been blamed for something this season on the Bucks. If you recall, Giannis was at the equipment managers earlier this season, and now Doc Rivers. I can't imagine the equipment crew, the other traveling crew people, you know, whoever they are, like the people who wash the uniforms and blah blah blah, like that they would be the ones contributing to losses.
Yeah.
This
Doc
is like Doc Rivers is known for blaming everybody, but
right.
come on.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of this is just so funny because Doc is deflecting so incredibly well. Like already, he's already laying the foundation for why Milwaukee will not win this year. It's like, hey, we're not professional. We don't do this right. We don't do that right. Just letting you guys know, giving you guys a heads up for when we flame out in April or May, that like
Mhm.
these were the reasons we didn't flame out. Doesn't he kind of remind you some of these quotes like a presidential candidate? Like he's deflecting so incredibly well. Like read that quote in a Trump, kind of voice. I've been actually sitting back and watching everything. Not not just our players, but our travel crew, everything. We don't bring the necessary. And it's just like, man, how do you? It just sounds like something Trump would
It's
say.
Trump-esque.
It's
It
very
is
Trump. It's
Trump-esque.
deflecting. It is just like it's not taking blame or taking any onus or responsibility for it yourself. You're constantly deflecting it and putting it on travel crews and whoever in the I don't know. I'm not sure, but like Doc Rivers, once he retires, needs to go and work at the White House, like be the chief communications officer for the president or something, because he's incredible at deflecting. And
He could run for president and win probably.
maybe that would be an interesting candidate. Yeah.
Cause he's under 70, I believe. So that is a huge plus already.
Yeah.
Not even under 70, under 75.
Yeah. Under 75 and over 60, right? So like he's in the sweet spot for
Yeah, he's in the right. It's like, has
Yeah.
anyone in America met someone over 75? Like, it's unreal. But anyway,
Uh,
that's a
that's
whole other
different
podcast.
topic. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, yeah. But look, I completely agree. And a great observation and solid impression by you, as solid impression. It's just like, especially when he's like, I've been taking notes. I'm not going to share those notes.
Yeah. I'm not gonna
But
share. I'm not gonna share, right? I'm not gonna share. Not gonna, but I've seen very, and like it
yeah,
just
it's
sounds like a thing. It just sounds like a Trump thing, right? I don't know, man. I'm not calling him Trump. Obviously, I'm not
no,
calling
no,
Doc
no,
Rivers
no.
Trump, but it just sounds very presidential deflecting. That's what it sounds like, and it's funny when you consider it that way. From now on, Catherine, for the rest of the season, let's just read every Doc Rivers quote as a Trump quote. Oh
We
man,
have to. What else do we have as Raptors fans?
you're
No,
right.
like,
You're right.
look, yeah, it's very deflecting. He's known for deflecting, but I feel like all of this has hit a new level. Also, too, when he talks about the team's lack of professionalism, I'm like, weren't you brought in to set a tone?
Yeah. No, you're
Right?
right.
Like, this
Yeah.
is on, like, to me, like, this is on Doc. Like, if you're telling me that the team behaves in an unprofessional way, that's literally why you're here,
Yeah.
to
I
set a
mean,
standard and set a tone. And if you're not able to do that, then why are you here? Why is
he
Adrian Griffin at home?
exactly. They swapped out a rookie head coach who apparently was in over his head and brought in this veteran coach who had tons of experience, et cetera, for the exact reason. And so you're like, why? Where does this come from? Where do you even? And like, I think part of it, I feel like he's right in a sense that he wasn't given the opportunity to kind of take this from the beginning of the season to have like a full training camp
Mhm.
to change things around the way he has. He kind of jumped in midway through. And so it's hard. Like there's no question about that. But also just you have to have that responsibility. You have to take responsibility for some of those things and not deflect like he's been
Mhm.
doing constantly. And I think that also permeates through the rest of the team, right? If you're not willing to take responsibility for something, then the star player Giannis won't be able to, or the Dame won't be able to. And like when it comes playoff time, having a divided locker room could cause trouble. And like I just don't think the Bucks have been good enough to deal with that really and sustain if they kind of hit a road bump or whatever.
I completely agree. Like, they haven't been handling adversity well. I mean, at this point, they're likely the 2nd seed. I have this pulled. Yeah, they're the
Yeah.
2nd seed currently. Um, I mean, the Cavs and the Magic are kind of like right there now because they have been losing and the Magic have won 3 in a row. So we'll see if that sustains itself. But I mean, imagine if they see the Heat in the first round again. Like,
Yeah.
the
I
Heat are
would
6th right now.
I would think they would lose to the Heat, honestly. I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of versions of that playoff series that ends up being that Miami wins again. And like, how do you reconcile that given the fact that the exact same thing happened last year?
Mm.
You had a completely different roster, you had a completely different head coach, and like the same result again. Like at that point, what's left to change? Like what do you? Yeah, what else is there to really manufacture or tweak around the edges? Like you kind of become who you are at this point. And the Bucks have had a few different seasons where they flamed out in the playoffs. So if this happens again, you have to sort of look and be like, okay, what are we doing wrong structurally outside of coaching, outside of roster construction that maybe is like making this happen, you know?
Could you imagine if they have a 4th coach on salary?
Yeah, they're paying all coaches like over $100 million.
Yeah, like, they're still paying Budenholzer, they're still paying Adrian Griffin. Could you imagine if they fire Doc? Which
Yeah,
I actually think is very much in the realm of possibility.
sure. Yeah, why not?
And, maybe they hire, like, a Jordy Fernandez or something, right? Like, who knows,
Yeah.
right? And then it's just a 4th coach that they're paying for. Like,
Oh
that would
man.
be so funny, but also
It's
so wild. Like, I mean, you're right,
they'd
there's
have
only
to
so
start
much they can change.
they'd have to start trading players because they have too much coaching salary on their books. which is such a bizarre situation to be in if you're an NBA team. That
Yeah.
you have to start trading away players because you're paying too much to coaches who are no longer coaching your team anymore. It's bizarre. Sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, not at all. Like, imagine they were just like Adrian Griffin, it's time to come back to work.
Yeah,
I don't
come
even know
back.
if they can do that. Come back to work.
Oh man.
Budenholzer, buddy, how you been?
That's like if you were to get laid off and they're like, "Hey, but like during your severance, you can still work here if you want."
Yeah,
Oh.
it's a lot. Like, I mean, if they end up seeing the Knicks,
Mhm.
right? Like, if the Knicks fall, the Knicks have lost 3 in a row and, they've announced that Julius Randle isn't coming back.
Mhm.
Then, I can see them getting out of the first round.
Yeah.
Right? Same if, they end up seeing, the Pacers. I mean, they're currently in 7th, but I don't see them losing in the play-in to, like, the Hawks or the Bulls. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll get through that, but I mean, yeah, I think they can get, past the first round, but if they end up seeing the Knicks or sorry, the Heat in the first round, God, that would just be crazy. Or even if they end up seeing them in the second round, like, that's still a failure. Like,
Yeah.
anything less than an Eastern Conference final
Yeah.
is a
I
failure for this team.
100%. I mean, honestly, if we're being realistic, anything but a final is kind of a failure for this team, even despite how good Boston has been. Like,
Mhm.
you have Giannis, you have Dame. The whole idea was to go all in and win a championship this year. And like, they likely will not win a championship this year. That's already not reaching expectations. If you're already like setting the bar lower, you're like, okay, well, a conference finals run, like, what does that do for you as an organization? What does that do for Giannis, who, said
Mm.
it's not failure, it's this, like, I don't know. I really don't know. And also on top of that, like, Dame is getting older, Brooke Lopez is getting older, Chris Middleton is getting older. It's
Mm.
like the questions of that team moving forward. It's like these are just a bunch of old guys around Giannis. How are they going to be able to sustain being a winner? I don't know.
I think Giannis might have okay, this is just a fan theory of mine, just
Sure.
me personally. It's not something I got off of Reddit or whatever. Like, I think Giannis might be the problem. I
Okay.
think Giannis might have a prickly personality that is difficult to deal with, but he's Giannis.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I
I
I
I
just
actually I actually don't think that's like a crazy theory. I don't think that's like,
okay, yeah.
yeah,
Because I mean, he comes off as this, like, nice guy outwardly, right, to the public, but internally, he might not necessarily be that guy.
right. Yeah, he might. And for what it's worth, I think like even some of the, he even in the quotes that we've heard from him before in the past, it's like, "Oh, I'd rather work alone. I don't need to
Mm,
go and get a super team. I don't need to do this. I don't like." He's like, "I don't think, like some of the quotes that he has and some of his just mentality, right? His mentality is very much so borrowed from Kobe Bryant, who he used to idolize when he grew up. And so Kobe was also another prickly personality who didn't get along
mhm.
with a lot of people. And so, like, I think that's a fair theory to have, that he's not necessarily the most accommodating of people, and maybe does a great job of showing that he's accommodating publicly, but maybe
Mhm.
privately he isn't the most accommodating.
Yeah, like, if we go back to this politician theory,
Okay.
right? Like, he knows how to smile for the cameras, kiss babies, all that good stuff. And then when the cameras aren't rolling, he's
Drone
just
strikes. Yeah.
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 That's how I think of Giannis, actually.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's do what's the Giannis quote, but in a Trump voice. It's not failure. It's not failure. It's just steps to success. Steps to success. Um, yeah. I don't know. I'm in a mood now. You got me rolling with the Trump
No,
thing.
that's good. That's what this podcast is for. This podcast is for us to be in a mood.
There you go.
Okay, sticking with the Eastern Conference, we gotta talk about Embiid. He's back.
Yeah.
He looked fairly decent in a win against OKC. No Shea in that game, but still, exciting to see him back
Yeah.
and able to kind of, rev up leading up to the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Um, they are currently in the 8th seed. They've won their last 2 in a row. Do you think they could get out of the first round?
So this is sort of tied to the Milwaukee thing.
Mhm.
Because I mean, if they face Boston, I think Boston would be too sturdy of a team to topple. Um,
Mhm.
Even given Embiid coming back, I think Boston is just like so safe and secure in what they are and who they are that they can like just surpass that. But Milwaukee isn't, right? For all the reasons we just listed, like Milwaukee is in a very like not on solid ground type of situation right now. And so Embiid comes back. Maybe he has a great first round series. Maybe Lowry is like rejuvenated and looks incredible against the Bucks, and he has historically liked playing Milwaukee. Maybe Buddy Hield gets his jumper back. Maybe Tobias Harris looks great, and like the perfect storm sort of happens for them to beat the Bucks. Wouldn't be surprised at that at all. But also, there's a couple of things that have to happen for that to be the case. They have to win the play-in game, become the
Mhm.
7 seed, and then be able to play them in the first round. And so, like, there's a couple things that have to happen in order for that to get to that point. But I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. And if Philly ends up beating Milwaukee, now you're like, okay, well, Philly against Cleveland in the next round
Mhm.
or whatever. And I think Philly could probably win that series too. And so now you're looking at Philly in the conference finals versus the Celtics. And you're like, all right, you have the Embiid has a couple of series under his belt. He looks better at that point. He's played like a month of basketball,
Mhm.
an MVP caliber player. You have these other guys who are like working on all cylinders. Maybe they could beat the Celtics. And so now you have, I don't know, I can keep going on and on with this, but I think there's a pretty good chance that this Sixers team can kind of make some noise in the East, depending on how their standings sort of shake out.
Yeah, I think the East is like super well, I think the 76ers are making the East super interesting this year in that I feel like their first round would be the toughest of the 3 rounds.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't like, it wouldn't like that's so weird because even with Boston, like, if they see Philly in the first round,
That's tough.
that could be their toughest series before the actual finals.
Yeah. No, for sure. And that's always interesting to me for a team that's been really good all season. Like, would you rather face your hardest team right out the gate, or would you rather build up to that?
Mhm.
I always think when I was younger, it was like the Warriors, right? The We Believe Warriors. They beat that Mavericks team in the first round, and it was just because Dallas was just unfazed all season. Like they were just kicking ass all season. They lost 15 games the whole year. Dirk won MVP. He went out and he had that press conference after I think game 2 or game 3 of that series, and he's like, I'm just blessed to be the best player in the world. And then he lost. He lost
Mhm.
against the Warriors, and I think like there's a certain thing about being caught off guard that happens in the postseason. I think the Lakers did that to the Grizzlies last year. Miami did
Yeah.
that to Milwaukee last year. So there's definitely an element of that exists, and it becomes even bigger with the play-in because first seeds and second seeds don't necessarily know who they're playing, right? Like you don't know because it could be a list of 4 teams. So
Mhm.
you can't game plan as easily as you would if you are like the 3 versus the 6 because you know already for a week, oh, the Cavs are playing the Pacers or whatever, or the Magic are playing the Knicks. Like we already know those series, but we don't know who Boston is facing, who Milwaukee is facing. And so that creates that little bit of confusion, I guess.
Mhm. Mhm. I mean, I kinda wish that and this is a little off topic. Like, I've said this before, but I wish the conferences didn't exist in the playoffs. I really do wish it was the best 1 through 16
What
because
what if they oh, actually, sorry, you go ahead. I have another crazy suggestion after this, but go ahead with your conference theory because I like that. I like your idea that you have.
well, I just feel like, like, so the Warriors are in 10th place with 41 wins, and the Sixers are in 8th place with 41 wins. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, like, the Pacers have 43, and it's like, I could care less with
About
all
the
due
Hawks.
respect, about the Hawks or the Bulls. Like, they shouldn't have anything to do with any of this. Like, wouldn't we all rather see the Pelicans and the Kings
Right.
than the Hawks and the Bulls?
Yeah, for sure.
I
No,
mean, I don't
I get
know.
it. I get it. Yeah, you know what? Two things on that. I think one, when they do expansion and add Seattle and Las Vegas, they need to move one of Memphis, New Orleans, or Minnesota to the east.
Mm.
And all three of those teams are pretty good teams, have stars of the future in Ja and Zion and Ann Edwards and whatnot. And so, like, shifting that might create a little bit more balance between the conferences. Number two, I think if you really want to incentivize getting the first seed or getting the second seed and still keeping it conference, let them pick their opponent. You have 4 playing teams. Those 4 playing teams play, and there's 2 remaining at the end. Let the first seed be like, hey, I want to play the Hawks. Give me the
Whoa.
Hawks. Or the second seed is like, hey, I want to play the Bulls or whatever, right? But yeah, like, let that happen. So there's an actual incentive to getting the first seed, because otherwise, like, why would a team bust their ass to get to the first seed? And then,
Well, so they have home court advantage throughout the whole playoffs.
yeah, that is, I guess that's the one thing.
That is the incentive. Yeah, but maybe but I think, like, I don't know, because then nobody would pick the Lakers or the Warriors in that situation.
Absolutely not. Yeah, absolutely not.
So we
Yeah,
want to
you're
see
right.
these competitive games.
Mhm.
I don't know if I can be on board with this idea. So I'm sorry.
Fine, fine. It's all right. It's all right. You know what?
You know what I do miss, though? I
Yeah.
do miss the All-Star draft. That
Yeah,
I really liked.
same. Me
And
too.
they need to bring that back. That was really fun.
It was fun and messy. It was really leaning into the whole reality TV aspect of NBA
Yes, like them
basketball.
always like leaving out like Rudy Gobert and like James Harden to like the
Yeah.
last pick, and then being like, "Oh my god, like
Yeah,
how do I pick?"
Jokic getting picked last that one year, like,
Yeah, it was insane. Yeah. No, they gotta bring the All-Star draft back.
yeah,
That's when I really enjoy them picking.
I agree. I agree.
All right. Okay. Real quick here. LeVar Ball,
Okay.
father of LaMelo Ball and the other balls,
LiAngelo and Lonzo.
Lonzo,
Yeah.
and et cetera, has basically blamed Puma shoes for their
Mm.
injuries. He said there's nothing wrong with his conditioning. He's like, I had them boys running up hills so they could play on the court and be run like deer and this, that, and the other. And it's these raggedy shoes. And that is why LaMelo Ball keeps injuring his ankle. This is a funny quote.
Yeah.
If I were Puma, I'd be tempted to sue.
Same. Yeah.
Because, like, how could you say that our shoes are responsible for his injuries? Like,
Right.
that's obviously bad for Puma. But also, like, aren't they like the ultimate like business people? You know what I mean? Like, they signed with Puma for a reason, because they were like, we'd rather be the face of a brand than like, the eighth best basketball player on Nike.
Yeah. Well, also, I think LeVar is probably salty because they left their own brand, right? They had the big baller brand, they had the shoes, they had the merchandise and everything like that. And that was part of their dad's vision, right? Like, he wanted to
Mhm.
build his own like merchandising empire, and they all left. Like, all the brothers left and decided to do Puma or decided to do thing. And like, from what I remember from those days, if you wanted to buy a big baller brand thing, like, it was terrible. You could order something and it would never come, or you could order something and it would come years later. And so that's why,
Whoa, I didn't know that.
yeah, there was a level of unprofessionalism to the way that they handled business. And so I don't blame those guys for leaving and going to Puma or whoever to be more established and be a part of a bigger brand. As far as like the injury thing, I don't know, but everybody I talk to at like basketball runs and whatnot that has LaMelos swears by them. Like, they love the
Mm.
shoe and they're like, this is the most comfortable shoe I had. These are actually really good shoes. I love playing in them, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know. LeVar seems like he's just kind of petty and salty, you know?
Mhm. I didn't realize that his brand was trying to enter the shoe market.
Yeah, this was a thing when they first got into the league, the big baller brand, BBB. And like he had all three of his sons be the sort of like spokespersons for them, spoke people, whatever. And yeah, it didn't work very well. They had a reality TV show. I used to watch Ball in the Family. That's what it was called, Ball in the
Yes.
Family. They tried to do the whole thing, like the basketball family
They
thing,
try to
but
be the Kardashians of the
basically,
NBA, yeah.
yeah, basically the Chino Hill Kardashians, and it just didn't work out
Yeah,
whatsoever.
it's
Yeah.
very, well, it's very Joe Jackson of him, the whole thing, but
Very Joe Jackson. Yes, and you've got a Janet shirt on you. I
sure
saw.
do.
There you go. Yeah, she knows a thing or two about Joe. If you
Yeah, I've talked about Janet on this podcast before, but still haven't sold my ticket for anyone who remembers. I'm
yeah.
desperately trying to get off a very expensive ticket that a friend purchased without my full consent and is full of regret. But
Damn, damn.
what you watch, I just end up meeting her, and then it's just like, well, I guess she never sold the ticket. But anyway, uh, yeah, I got distracted. Sorry, by
No,
Janet.
it's all good. Janet does that to people. It's all good. I completely understand.
Just does that to me. Like, I will be, like, in a, a store shopping or something, and, like, Janet will come on, and it's, like, 1 note, 2 notes. I'm like, "That's Janet." And then I don't know what's happening in a conversation that I'm having. It's actually so
That
stupid.
man, so now I know if we're ever at the same networking event, I'm gonna just ask the person the DJ to play Janet Jackson. Just gravitate, the little swirly little what's it called? Oh, now I'm gonna ruin the joke. The little mind control thing, the little swirly black and white thing that I don't know, whatever. Yeah, I've lost you already. It's okay. Let's move on. Buckets and feet. The thing in Austin Powers, you remember the thing they had with the swirly white and black thing
Yeah, I don't
like,
know what that's called.
yeah, neither do I. Neither do I.
Love it.
Catherine. Anyways, Janet
Love it.
Jackson, great person. Yeah, good guy.
Yeah,
Cool.
she is a good person.
Yeah.
Okay. Raptors Homer moment time. I wrote in my email to you, I wrote, "Good God, make it stop. Just make it stop, not even attaching an article," because I usually send news articles that go with each topic. I be perfectly honest?
It's
And
your podcast. You can
I
be as honest as you want. Yeah.
I I have stopped watching Raptors games. I'm
Nice.
sorry, Raptors Republic community. Like, I just have.
I
They're
think
they're
okay,
unwatchable, man. Like, I know you're
yeah.
covering them. I know, like, you
Look,
know
look, they lost by 48 last night, and instead of doing a game recap on them, I did a game recap on Malachi Flynn, who
You
dropped 50
did. Oh,
points.
and I forgot to open with that
Don't
because
worry,
we
it's
got
fine.
distracted.
It's all
Your
good.
Malachi piece was really fun.
Thank you,
I
appreciate it.
did
But
catch it last night.
he dropped 50, which is incredible. Like, shout out to him.
Yeah, Malachi Flynn scored. If you haven't heard, Malachi Flynn scored
Yes.
50 points, in a loss to the
I
Hawks.
I would not have had that on my bingo card for the
No
year,
one.
at all.
Malachi Flynn didn't have that on his own bingo
You're
card.
right. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a bizarre year, Catherine, and I just hate it all. Yeah, it's been tough to watch this last bit of the season and be like, "Oh, well, there's promise yet ahead, and
Mm,
things are looking good and things are up." What's that saying? It's darkest before dawn. It's
mhm.
whatever, light at the end of the tunnel. It's the worst before it's the best, or whatever. 1,000 different iterations of that quote. I'm choosing to believe in that. I'm choosing to believe that the 15 game losing streak, 16, maybe 17, maybe 18,
Maybe
maybe not,
20. How
maybe
many games
20.
do you have left? Like 4 or 5?
I think they could get to 21, which would be
Yeah, yeah,
impressive,
yeah.
Yeah, so like maybe that losing streak is the worst we will endure through the next couple of years, and there's only up from here, cuz really it is rock bottom. I mean, this is about as rock bottom as you can get for a franchise, because on top of, the losing streak and just being bad, it's just been injuries and guys losing family members and
Yeah,
just
it's been
an
awful.
array betting scandals and former players going off for 50 points, and like there's just been so many weird things that have happened this year that you just want to kind of like wipe the slate clean and start over new next season. So yeah, I'm with you. I can't wait until the season is over for the Raptors. And I don't think that's a crazy thing to say whatsoever. I think a lot of fans like you are also checked out. They're also not watching the games. They're also, why would you? Why would you want to sit there and watch Jalen McDaniels and Jordan Nwora try to score and lose by 50 points? Like I don't blame people who aren't watching or tuning into the games. Also, there's much better basketball on right now, especially in the college world. Like
Yep.
I can't wait to watch Iowa versus Connecticut on Friday. I
Yep.
like that's going to be an incredible game. And like, yeah, the Monday
Yeah.
games were incredible for the women's, and like the guys are doing their thing too. And like there's better basketball in the NBA. So I don't blame people who are tuned out of the Raptors. They're like 99th on the list of basketball things that are happening right now.
Yeah.
You know, so
Unless you're Ryan Russillo, in which case you definitely switch the channel to watch the
what a schmuck! What a schmuck! I
I don't know if people for people who didn't see this, Ryan Russillo of The Ringer said on his podcast that he turned off the LSU Iowa game on Monday to watch Magic Blazers because it quote unquote wasn't for him.
okay, can we just address how absolutely idiotic that sounds, right? Like okay, what part of it wasn't for you? Like that's the thing that's bizarre. If I had a chance to talk to the man right now, I would ask him the same question. What part of it wasn't for you? Because if basketball is the thing that you enjoy, then very clearly the Iowa LSU game was 10 times that. Even
Yeah.
the UConn and USC game was
Yeah.
incredible. And so like I think to me that was a very clear, I'm going to be a contrarian. I'm going to say this
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah,
everybody's
for
saying
sure.
that. And like those kind of people are just schmucks. They're just
Yeah.
schmucks. That's all
Yeah.
they are.
Contrarians just fueled by ego.
Yeah.
Yeah, because being an actual contrarian, sure, but most people are just
Are like
trying to
fake
be yeah,
contrarian.
yeah, yeah. They're just
Yeah.
trying to be that guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that LSU Iowa game to me was like not just a game, it was a moment.
Yeah, big time.
Like I
Yeah.
I feel like, when we look back on it, like the history of like women's basketball and its popularity rising, like that is going to be a marquee moment that people reference
Yeah.
years from now. I really do believe that.
I don't mean to do this because like I'm not trying to compare men's and women's sports whatsoever, but the Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark kind of like I guess verses that they have. And I know obviously Angel Reese's comments, like what she talked about was absolutely
Mhm.
heartbreaking, like it's devastating. But from a pure like promotional standpoint, their competitiveness versus each other over the last couple of years sort of reminds me of Larry Bird and Magic Johnson way
Yes.
back in the day. And they had an incredible championship college game that sort of ignited a decades long rivalry in the NBA. And if people don't know, Magic Johnson and Larry Bird can be credited for saving the NBA. There's like multiple
Mhm.
articles, videos, stories like that. And so I think in a lot of ways you could see Caitlin and Angel kind of having maybe a similar impact. They're both going into the WNBA draft this year. They
Mhm.
likely will both be on teams this year. And like, there's a world in which they kind of ignite even a more popular, I guess, I don't know, world of women's sports and women's basketball. I think that would be awesome, to be honest with
Mhm.
you. And Toronto's about to get a team. So that would be very cool too.
Yes. One can wait, one can hope as I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
We'll definitely win more games, I'm sure of it. But yeah, I mean this Raptor season has been an absolute disaster. There's no other way around it. I feel like had we known at the beginning of the year, ESPN would have sent a 30 for 30 doc crew
Yeah. No, you're
to
right. Yeah.
cover this year's Raptors, like, had we known, because it is truly, truly bizarre. And, I missed last week, so I didn't really get to talk about the Jonte Porter scandal. I don't even know what to say about it at this point because I feel like everything's been said.
Right.
I just can't get over the fact that he bet on himself losing. Like he was like betting on himself being a loser. Like, that is
Oh
so wild
god.
to me, and
Yeah.
then to find out that he had these, like, Discord chats about, like, Bitcoin and stuff, it's like, the man's passion is money, and it's not basketball,
Yeah.
clearly,
Yeah,
right?
very
Like,
clearly.
that's just, like, that's what he cares about in life, and, like, you wanna be a capitalist, like, good for you, I guess, like, that's your prerogative. Obviously, as we discussed earlier in the podcast, I am not that. Uh I wish I was, I'm definitely not, but
Yeah,
I just feel like at least he, like, didn't get to the point in his NBA career where, like, young kids were, like, really looking up to him,
right.
because I think that would have made it, like, more heartbreaking, but he was, like, this bench player that, Raptors, like, diehards that many of us are, knew, but outside of that, I don't think, like, casuals knew who Jontay Porter was, so it's kind of
Yeah.
just funny, like, these prop bets that you're gonna be benched is, like, because your eye hurts, like, what the hell? Like, betting on yourself losing is just, man,
It's a
wild stuff.
different level of degenerate. It's very much so a
Yes.
different level of degenerate. I don't know. It reminded me of that scene in Pulp Fiction. I'm sure you've seen. I don't know if you haven't seen it, whatever. But
I've seen Pulp
I
Fiction.
don't know. Hey, I don't know. Some people are like, I don't like Tarantino. Whatever. Anyways, um, there's this scene in Pulp Fiction where he's like, in the fifth you go down, and he's like, say it, in the fifth I go down, right? And it's like, that you get to the point of desperation where you're like willing to bet on yourself to lose. It's just funny because Jonte wasn't in that point of desperation. Like, his career was just starting, his
Mhm,
NBA career was just starting. I think if things had progressed naturally, he would have gotten a standard contract with the Raptors. He'd played well enough to get to that point. And his brother obviously has gajillions of dollars from his own contract. So it's just bizarre to me that a person who clearly isn't in a position of desperation has to like go ahead and bet on themselves. I think to me that just shows very clear degenerate behavior if it ends up being true. So
mhm, mhm.
yeah.
Okay, here's a question for you that I just thought of.
Okay.
If Jontay Porter was like an all-star,
Okay.
let's just say for argument's sake, he was an all-star,
Okay.
and this scandal breaks out, do you think fans would want him back in the league?
That's a good question. Um, okay. So on one side, clearly he would have some fans defending him, potentially
Mhm,
stands defending him and being like, no way Jante would do that. We know him, blah, 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 blah. And then on the other side, there would be people being like, it ruined the integrity of the game. It did this, that is pretty much what we're hearing now. Huh. I think it would be more split than it is now. I think
mhm.
consensus is that, he should probably be done with the league and whatnot if anything is shown that he actually did what he did. I think if he was an all-star, it would be more of a split decision. It
Yeah,
would
I actually think the league would just, like, suspend him
right.
and not actually, like, ban him from the league if he was an all-star, if he was a better player.
That's fair.
Right? Because I don't wanna get into it, but there's certain men in this league that should probably not be in our league. But
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
but
No.
because they're, a quote unquote "good player,"
Right, yeah.
they're
Well, there
still
well,
not
honestly, you know what? Some of them
spicy.
aren't even good players. Like,
Some of them aren't.
there's a former Toronto Raptor who is on, the Sacramento Kings
Is
now,
he still
and
there?
actually, I don't know if he's still there. I gotta double check that. I
He might not
no,
be there still.
he might not be there. But regardless, like, he had an
Yeah,
opportunity,
yeah.
and, like, he wasn't just automatically banned or banished from the league, and, like,
Mhm.
priorities, Catherine, priorities.
Priorities,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, anyway, everyone knows what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, we know, yeah.
But there's something else I was gonna say about that. Oh, I wanna go back to your Malachi Flynn thing for a minute,
Sure.
because one thing that I think is super significant
He
about
bet the over. He bet
he
the
bet
over
the over.
on
Shout
himself.
out to Malachi. He bet the over. One
Yeah.
thing that I think is significant about this, and Michael Grange earlier this week shared a clip of Lou Will, not Will Lou, Lou Will. Skip to my Lou Will. And he said on this podcast that the average NBA career is 4
Alright.
years,
Yeah.
which I did not realize.
Mhm.
And I thought that was quite shocking, but then also, like, understandable when you really think about it.
Yeah.
And to me, when I saw that Malachi scored 50 points, I'm like, that might save his NBA career.
Mhm.
Right? Because now he's like, people will know him, people will remember him for that. People might try to give him another shot.
Yeah.
Like Cade Cunningham was out last night, and I think that's why Malachi got this like opportunity.
Sure.
And like, yeah, I think for a lot of players, like even Delano Banton doing so well in Portland, these moments are going to save their careers or extend them, I should say, not save, but extend them, right? Where they
Big
might
time.
be out of the league otherwise.
Yeah. And it also, for that exact same reason, it makes the final stretch of this Raptors basketball team that much more bizarre because there are a couple of guys on this team that are kind of on the last string of that.
Yeah.
Like Jordan Wara has had a lot of opportunity in a lot of different places, and like he's going to be an unrestricted free agent this year. Does he end up on another team? Does another team give him an opportunity? Do the Raptors even give him an opportunity? Jalen McDaniels has 1 year left on his contract, but again, that could be easily waived. And like, again, are you going to get an opportunity on another team? And so that's why it's so bizarre when guys aren't able to, or not even able to, but like they don't take their opportunity seriously when it's presented to them, as Malachi has, where he gets his 50 ball, or Delano Banton, who's been playing incredible. Like some guys take advantage of their opportunity and other guys don't. And
Mhm.
it's kind of bizarre to me that the Raptors season has shaken out this way. I saw a tweet the other day, kind of alluding to this exact thing. Shout out to Joe Wolfond, Score. He does some great work, great writing. And he was just like, how sad the final bit of this Raptors season is that they haven't even been able to celebrate a random 30 ball from one of their players, or a random
Mm.
really great game from one of their players. It's just been that it's been so bad that they haven't even been able to like celebrate a Jordan Wara great game, or a, Javon Freeman Liberty great game, or whatever. It's just been bleak all around. Whereas you see these other guys kind of make the most out of their opportunity. I don't know what that means for anything, really. I don't know what that means for the Raptors and their organization and talent scouting and everything like that. But it's just some guys take that opportunity and run with it, and some people don't.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a great point. And, with a team like Detroit, you're kind of like, okay, we're not they don't have anything to play for.
Yeah.
They haven't for quite some time. But you see somebody like Malachi, or even, Delano Banton on the Trailblazers, same thing. Taking advantage, like you said, taking advantage of the opportunity. They realize there's still something to play for.
Yeah. Big time.
And that's really significant. And like, yeah, you're right. Like we have a lot of bench guys that could seize the moment and really try to like establish themselves in the league more with these last few games. And I get being dejected and all of that. But yeah,
But
like,
where is that? Like what? Yeah. What?
yeah,
It's unfortunate because it just comes down to the type of person you are, right? Like, are you going to be willing to take that opportunity and run with it? Are you given that opportunity and running with it? Do you feel like there's an opportunity there for you? There's obviously tons of circumstances that me and you are not privy to and like know
hmm,
about, but yeah, it's just, I guess it's something interesting to think about with the final end of this Raptors season, which is like, there's not much to take away from here other than, Grady has had some cool moments, some interesting moments. Gary has had a couple of interesting games. RJ and IQ came back, and it was happy that they came back, and they looked like they were good. Like they scored 28 and 22 immediately. Like they looked fine.
hmm,
But for the most part, it's just bleak all around.
yeah. One quick thing before we get to our hottie highlight of the week. I want to ask you about NBA fantasy. So remember last time you were on this podcast, we talked about how we were struggling with NBA fantasy. And did you win your league?
I won my Mother King League. I won the league.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I know. It was the hardest month of my life.
Well, that's quite a privileged life, buddy. Oh my God.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But it was agonizing. Like I was setting alarms for 3 a.m. to pick up players before anybody else did. And it was just,
Wow.
I was dedicated. Once I got into the playoffs, I'm like, this is my opportunity. I got to take advantage of it. And I ended up winning. I think it's the first time I've ever won in fantasy too, it's saying a lot about my fantasy
Congratulations.
experience. Thank you so much. How'd you
I
do? How'd you
I
do?
am currently in my last week competing for first place.
Oh, let's go. Let's
I'm leading 6-3, but it's tight, man. It's tight.
that's what happened to me too. It's
It's tight.
agonizing. I
And
know.
I'm trying to think, like, do I drop players? Do I pick up players in this last week?
Mhm.
But, like, I don't know, like, if they're gonna be out. Like I have Cade. I have Cade Cunningham, and, like, he
Right.
went out, and I'm like, "Shit, like, is
Wait,
he gonna come back?"
do you have the IL spot, like the injured?
Yeah, yeah.
So then swap them in there, add guys in. I don't know. Wait, I don't know how many like max slots or anything
Yeah,
like
I
that you
also
have.
lost Malik Monk too.
Yeah, fuck, that happened to me too. That happened
Yeah,
to
so
me
I had to
too.
drop him, but I'm still competing for first, and I'm very excited.
I'm so
I picked up
happy.
Banton a few weeks ago.
He's been great.
Yeah,
He's
I
been
picked up
incredible. Yeah.
Delano Banton a few weeks ago, and it's been
Yeah.
awesome. He's been getting like 26 points.
Oh my god, he's been incredible in fantasy. It's yeah, it's incredible. Well, best of luck. I hope you
Thank
win.
you. I mean,
I hope
I'm very proud of myself because I crawled back from being 12th, like dead last in my league. I was 12th place earlier in the season, and
right.
now I'm competing for first, and I'm the only girl in my league.
Me and you have very similar stories. I
Mhm,
wasn't 12th. I
mhm.
was like 10th or 11th and I fought back and ended up being in first place. I hope you can win and we can
Thank
both kind of
you.
relish in the championship glory.
Thank
Yes.
you. Everyone send me their thoughts and prayers. That's not right.
Thoughts and prayers. Yeah.
That's not right. Just ignore me. Ignore me.
Yes. Send your love to Catherine
And yeah, there we go.
who's in a
Thanks,
battle
S.
right now.
Gee, I wonder which one here is a real professional. All right. Let's get into our hottie highlight of the week. And this one is going out to Vince Carter, who is
Nice.
officially making the Hall of Fame. Bow, bow, bow,
Woo.
bow. I'm so excited. Knew this day would come. I hated anyone who ever thought it was up for debate.
Yeah.
Low key don't love that he's going in with Chauncey Billups, but meh, whatever.
Right.
It is what it is. Super excited for Vince. There was someone on Twitter on April Fools saying that
Oh,
Vince
that
Carter was going to get his jersey retired on April 9th. I messaged my buddy Leonard and immediately went to Ticketmaster and then
Oh
looked at the
no.
tweet again and saw that it was an April Fool's joke. And I was like, well, thank God I didn't end up buying tickets to that game.
I'm glad that happened.
Because that would be the only reason I would go at this point. And they are
Right.
playing Indiana, you know, Siakam's there and stuff. So at least there's that. But I mean, like,
Right.
come on. Like, if you don't already have tickets, I don't even know. But
Yeah.
unless it's like mad cheap now, which it could be.
It's not. It is not mad
No?
cheap. No, funny enough you say this. On Sunday, a friend of mine is going to the Wizards game and he's like, "Hey man, you should tag along." I'm like, I haven't really been to a game that I haven't like been media for.
Working,
So like,
yeah.
yeah, like, how much is the ticket or whatever? He's like, "Oh, it's just like $200." I'm like, "Oh, okay.
Whoa.
I'm just gonna wait and go as media, you know, like I'll just hold out for that. I'm okay, no worries."
I was looking into maybe some last minute Lakers tickets.
Mhm.
And they
Oh,
were too expensive. They always are.
yeah.
I like, okay, here's something that really bothers me. I haven't seen LeBron James live
Really? Oh, dang.
all these years, and it bugs me that I haven't seen him live in person. And I feel like it's something I have to do in my lifetime before it's too late.
Right.
And I still didn't make it happen this year.
Well, it's expensive. I don't blame
It's
you.
really expensive. And I was like, I know it's not even going to be a competitive game. I was like, you might not even play the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, you know.
That's fair. That
So
is fair.
next year, hopefully I make that happen.
Yeah, maybe it's the last year next year. Who knows?
Yeah, probably not.
But shout out to Vince. And to your point about jersey retirements, I think that'll happen next year. I think he will get his jersey retired. I think it's almost inevitable. And yeah, like I think it's just like natural for that to happen.
Yeah, I'm a big Vince Carter fan. I mean, he has, like, you could see him on my little wall here.
Yeah.
Love him. Loved him as a kid. Had a huge crush on him as a kid. Like, I always, like, as a kid, remember joking like he was my Backstreet Boy. Like, forget Nick
Nice.
Carter, forget, you know, Justin Timberlake. Like, Vince
So
Carter's my guy.
you're a bald ally.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I actually think Vince Carter looks better bald than he does with hair.
Yeah, I agree with
Do you
that.
remember him in, like, the 2000, like, Olympics when he had
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
like, dunk of the century?
Yeah,
Like
he had the little fro, like
yeah,
the
he had
little
the
yeah.
little fro, and he just, like, looked sadder somehow. Like, he just looked more sad with hair. It's like he had a full head of hair and he kept shaving it.
Yeah, I was gonna
He
say,
just looks better bald.
yeah, he's one of those guys that just looks better bald because it's kind of weird. Like even before the Olympics, he was bald, right? And then he grew it
Yes.
for the Olympics, and then,
Yes.
anyways, I
Yeah,
yeah,
and there was a book that came out. This is how much of a old-timey sicko I am. There was a book that came out called Drive, the Vince Carter story. And it
okay,
was like while Vince was still on the team, you know what I mean? And it was
right,
like
right,
it wasn't Doug Smith, but it was some Toronto Star reporter, I want to say, or something like that, who wrote this book. And so they were interviewing him, and apparently he was going through some like rough family things during that Olympic run, and he grew
oh,
his hair out because he was mad.
wow, okay, so it was a protest. I'm growing my
Yeah,
hair out.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
interesting.
He has a very interesting family history and a brother that wasn't doing well, but I
Oh,
haven't read
really?
up on that in a long time.
I wonder if he can still grow out his hair.
That's a great question. I would love to know the answer to that because
Yeah,
I just love Vince as a person. I wanted him to be the host of Jeopardy after Alex Trebek. Like that's how much I love Vince Carter. I
that
think
would be
he would have been
awesome.
amazing as a Jeopardy host. Maybe he could do like sports Jeopardy.
That would be cool. Yeah, I could see him doing like a sports Jeopardy
That
show
would
or
be so
whatever.
cool. Like especially if they did like a tournament, like a sports tournament. Oh,
Yeah.
come on, Jeopardy.
You know what? I'm surprised. Like, I understand there's still some people who don't necessarily love Vince Carter in Toronto, so
Yeah.
maybe I'm not as surprised, but I am at least a little bit surprised that he's not like an analyst for the Raptors. I know he does it for the Hawks, he does it for TNT too, but I'm kind of surprised. Maybe he just doesn't want to live in Toronto and like do the
Or
whole.
he's just too big,
Yeah, that
honestly.
too. That too. Because like we got Alvin Williams here. Why not just I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of, Alvin's alright, but I
Yeah.
don't want to say anything, disparaging about him because I don't think he's like a bad guy or anything, but it's
Yeah.
just not as entertaining of a broadcast.
I agree. I tend to agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's just a compromise
Mhm.
every time it's on Sportsnet, which is horrible to say out loud.
No,
It's
listen,
horrible to say out loud.
hey, listen, shout out to Sportsnet, shout out to Will Lou, shout out to the
Mhm,
Raptors show,
mhm,
shout out to all those
mhm.
folks. Nothing wrong with Alvin. It's just like it's hard to replace the love of Jack Armstrong and like his energy, right? It's tough to replace that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all. Well said. Let's end it there.
Okay.
What a what a shit show.
Yeah, what a shit show indeed. What a shit show. Yeah.
I don't want to get into like scouting and all of that just yet because we'll have time for that
Yeah.
in the off season slash playoffs. For anybody newer to the show, I do keep doing this show throughout the playoffs. I go through past the finals. I usually do the show until July. Just cover that first bit of free agency and then take the summer off. But this is an Olympic year and
Mhm.
it's really exciting. So I imagine I will do some episodes in the summer as well,
Hell
just
yeah.
to stay on top of that. Because
Excited.
yeah, I'm very excited for Team Canada and even like, yeah, I mean, FIBA last year was really fun, even though I wasn't covering it. So
Yeah.
I'll be around and then I'll give you whatever Raptors off season updates exist. Maybe they'll take our latest draft pick to the real jerk again. Who knows? Maybe they'll discover Caravana for the first time. I
Oh,
mean,
right. Yeah, who knows? Yeah,
who
shout out
knows?
shout out to Grady Dick. Shout out to Grady Dick. Yeah.
Let us know what you're up to. What can we look forward to?
I'm just gonna be doing some writing for Forbes, NBA stuff, NBA playoffs. There's obviously not a whole lot to talk about when it comes to the Toronto Raptors. So I'm gonna be kind of shifting towards NBA stuff once the playoffs start. A couple of things on the way, but they're not like fully guaranteed, so I can't really talk about them yet. So fingers crossed. Hopefully
Mhm.
they shake out the way they're supposed to, and then you'll hear from me on Twitter and social media and all that stuff. So Yeah.
Amazing. For anybody who also listens to my WNBA pod, we're going to be back this week.
Hell
Freddie
yeah.
and I are back recording tomorrow morning. So I believe we'll have that out Friday afternoon.
Cool.
And so I'm sure we'll be talking about all the latest, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese stuff, et cetera, et cetera. So look out for that. Thank you everyone for tuning in as always, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.